was noticeable by its absence in that report on speed. Don Garlits was in the forefront of the quest for 280 miles an hour. But a crash a couple of weeks ago at Spokane, Washington, has forced Don out of competition for the remainder of the season. The accident was very similar to the crash over a year ago at Englishtown. Garlits' car went into a giant wheel stand at the finish line, overturned, and rolled several times at over 200 miles an hour.
The good news is Don Garlits is not seriously injured. His loss is our gain, as we'd like to welcome Don Garlits to our Diamond B Sports program. Don, I have a question for you. Why such incredible speeds this year?
Well, you know, the National Hot Rod Association, in an attempt to give the spectator a better show, ground this entire track to make it very smooth. See, this place was paved back in 1961. And when they did that, it keeps those wheels on the ground just perfect right through the lights, and that equates to more speed.
Well, speed is just what we've had. Right now, we're ready for the second round of Top Fuel Eliminator. Don, it's time we go to work.
Joe Amato, the world's fastest dragster, coming up to the line. Is he going to go 280 again?
That's the big question, Don, and everybody here at Indianapolis Raceway Park is watching as Joe Amato in round number 2 of Top Fuel goes off against Frank Bradley. And Don, you know Bradley's got to be concerned about Amato and that 280 mile an hour plus speed.
You bet.
Joe Amato, the fastest man in all of drag racing, locked in a battle for the World Championship title. Frank Bradley at this U.S. Nationals, running better than he ever has in his career, now in round number 2, facing Amato. Bradley is in the near lane, Amato in the far lane. Both drivers, having completed their burnout procedure, now approach the starting line. Getting set for the race. It's a good start. Amato appears to have the lead. And Amato wins it. Elapsed time is 5.37 seconds. His speed, though, 273 miles an hour, off the pace just a bit, Don.
Well, he's probably saving his engine for round 3. You know, that World Championship points chase is a serious thing.
Here's a man that takes that World Championship very seriously. This is Darrell Gwynn, the most recent winner on the NHRA National Event Trail. In qualifying, Gwynn had an experience that he would not like to repeat in eliminations, an engine explosion. As he was about 3/4 of the way down the quarter-mile racetrack, the engine let go.
Well, as you can see, a tremendous blower explosion here. All the safety straps have done their job. Most of the parts still remain on the engine, except one errant piece somehow punctured the right rear tire. So, Darrell Gwynn, did you have any control problems, or did it maintain pressure till you get it stopped?
No, I don't think it became flat till pretty close around here, around the corner. But an explosion like that, the number one thing is you want to try and get the chute out right away. And that was the main objective, was get the car slowed down, because the run ain't over till you're around here and stopped and out of the car and safe. And that's the main thing I was trying to do, was get around this corner.
Clearly, he came back. Now in the second round, he races against Bill Mullins. Mullins had the upset of the day in the first round of competition as he took on Gary Ormsby, the number 1 qualifier. It was in the last qualifying session that Ormsby, by just a few thousandths of a second, edged out Joe Amato for the number 1 spot. However, today in the first round of competition, Ormsby lost traction at the starting line and lost the race. Don had a chance to talk to Ormsby.
One of the problems of having the fastest and quickest car at the event is you have so much horsepower, sometimes hard to deal with on that first round, isn't it?
It's real hard, and it's right on the edge, as you well know, and it's a fine line there between getting down that racetrack and smoking the tires.
Gwynn in the near lane, along with Mullins, trying to reach that round number 3, or the semifinals. Gwynn is locked in that chase for the World Championship title. And each round you win adds to your points total. Gwynn beginning to drift near the center line. He drives away from it and drives away from Mullins. His time, 5.30. His speed over 275 miles an hour. The 1987 U.S. Nationals is being brought to you by Goodyear. The Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? More Top Fuel racing in just a moment from the U.S. Nationals. People have jammed into Indianapolis Raceway Park for this weekend's racing in the U.S. Nationals. In round number 2 of Top Fuel Eliminator, on the track at the moment, Mike Brotherton and Shirley Muldowney. Don, you've raced this lady many times.
I certainly have, Dave, and you know she has enjoyed her fastest and quickest run of her entire career at this race.
Don, she ran 5.28 seconds at over 274 miles an hour in qualifying. She is racing against a virtual rookie in Top Fuel Eliminator, Mike Brotherton from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Don, like you, Shirley is a 3-time world champion, and it appears she has regained that title-winning performance.
Shirley told me that her most important win of her career was the 1982 Nationals here at Indy, and I think she's here to repeat.
She's got Mike Brotherton to contend with. Muldowney's got the lead, and Muldowney wins it and advances to the semifinals with a 5.40 second and over 277 miles an hour. Slight fire out of Brotherton's car, but he's got the parachutes out, and obviously the brakes are applied. Brotherton makes a safe turnoff, and Shirley goes into the semifinals. Don, as we watch Eddie Hill get ready to do his burnout, for years we've been telling Diamond B viewers about the importance of this procedure. Are we right?
You bet. The burnout is one of the most important of the procedures of Top Fuel or funny car racing. If you don't get that burnout just right and the heat is not up in those tires, you're going to spin the tires. And you know the difference between winning and losing at this race has been, do you go up in smoke or do you get traction?
Getting his tires hot is Dick LaHaye. Backing up into his own track is Eddie Hill from Wichita Falls, Texas. Hill, a veteran drag racer, competed on this track in the early 1960s. Dick LaHaye is a more than 20-year veteran of the sport. In fact, he started up in Michigan driving a 48 Mercury Coupe. Now, one of the 3 racers locked in the chase for the World Championship title. LaHaye has got the near lane, Eddie Hill in the far lane. LaHaye on a picture-perfect run. By more than a car length, Dick LaHaye wins it 5.30 at over 267 miles an hour. That sets up our semifinals. It will be LaHaye against Darrell Gwynn. Gwynn having the lane choice by virtue of a quicker elapsed time in this round of racing. The other pair, Joe Amato against Shirley Muldowney. Amato having lane choice. Steve?
Well, I'm standing with a lady who just recorded a career best top speed at 277 miles per hour.
It's fast. Would have liked a little better ET.
540.
Well, it shook on me out there, but it's clean and nice, and we know what to do.
You can go back to that 528 from the first round?
Yeah, I get to, 28, and that may, I think 2 more 28s might do it. Get to race my friend Joe.
That's right, Shirley Muldowney and Joe Amato side by side.
In the semifinals right now, it is the fastest funny car in the world. Mike Dunn against Don Prudhomme.
Yeah, you know, Dave, I raced against Don Prudhomme at Indianapolis several times, 3 to be exact, and he won the races. I guess I should have, really.
Prudhomme, a 6-time Nationals winner, 3 in Top Fuel, 3 in Funny Car. Mike Dunn is the defending champion of the U.S. Nationals. He won it all 1 year ago.
This race has always been a race of surprises for 33 years, and he certainly surprised everyone last year when he won this race, beating Billy Meyer in the final.
Don Prudhomme in the far lane, Mike Dunn, the defending champ, in the near lane. And Prudhomme goes up in smoke. Let's see how fast Dunn can run. Mike Dunn wins the race, but his speed falls off. Don, what could have been the problem?
Well, he probably was getting some problems in there, felt the acceleration fall off a little bit and backpedaled. Remember, he's not worrying about speed right now. He's thinking about winning this race 2 years in a row.
Don on the starting line, our next pair getting set to go in the near lane. It is Kenny Bernstein against Ed McCulloch. The world champion had been having his problems early on in this race, but under the direction of crew chief Dale Armstrong, Bernstein seems to have regained the performance level that took him to the championship here at the U.S. Nationals back in 1983. Winner 6 times this season. If Bernstein wins today, he could lock up his 3rd world championship. Ed McCulloch has won 3 U.S. Nationals titles in 71, 72, and in 1980, but this has not been a very successful race thus far for McCulloch. He lost 2 engines during qualifying. And folks, in case you're interested, that's about $70,000 worth of broken parts for Ed McCulloch. Both cars set. McCulloch goes into a wheel stand, a little tire smoke, and McCulloch's got a fire. Bernstein wins the race, but McCulloch again with engine problems. He coasts through the end of the quarter mile. He's got to be dreadfully disappointed. That's another $35,000 engine that broke on that run. As we watch again, you can see both cars staged. A green light start for both drivers. The front wheels of McCulloch's car come off the pavement. Then a little burst of tire smoke and an engine lets go. The fire coming out underneath the car. Explosions like this occur many times when the engine leans out, allowing a backfire. You actually saw the concussion of the explosion blow open the escape hatch in Ed McCulloch's Oldsmobile. Now let's join Don Garlits with Kenny Bernstein.
You've done a real good job today with getting this car nailed down in the center. That was what was plaguing you before, keeping that drive shaft speed down. Dale is evidently getting that worked on.
Absolutely. The starting line's great. It leaves good there. In fact, we're soft on the starting line. We needed more. But like you said, in the middle of the racetrack, 150, 200 off the line, it was tough to get it hooked up. But maybe now we got it going. Dale's certainly working at it.
Well, we wish you the best, Kenny.
Great. Thank you.
Kenny Bernstein headed into the semifinals. A funny car at the U.S. National. For you, did you ever have a desire to drive a funny car?
No way.
Why not?
Surely you haven't forgotten Ed McCulloch's big fire just a few minutes ago.
No, Don, I haven't forgotten about it. But one thing about these funny cars, when they work well, they are spectacular. As Mark Oswald found out with a 5.46 second elapsed time in the first round. He is racing against John Force. This a rematch of yesterday's Big Bud Shootout final. $50,000 at stake in this one run. In the near lane, Mark Oswald, John Force in the far lane. Oswald lost traction down the raceway. Force won it. His crew chief, Austin Coyle, absolutely elated with the big win.
This ain't time for this here.
Yes, it is. You were beaten in the final last year. Everybody knew how badly you wanted, and you've done it, John. You've done it for your crew, for yourself.
My sponsors, my crew, my wife, Austin Coyle, baddest person I know, and all them people up there. I love all of you.
John Force going for the double. If he could win today, it would be a $100,000 weekend. Mark Oswald has the lane choice by virtue of lower elapsed time in the previous round and put Force over there where Ed McCulloch lost an engine just one race ago. A good start for both drivers. Oswald begins to pull away, and Oswald puts away John Force and advances to the semifinals. 5.55 seconds, his speed 260 miles an hour. On the starting line, our next pair set, this is Eric Reed. Alongside of Reed on this quarter-mile racetrack is Johnny West. As these racers continue their burnout procedures, let's go to Steve with Mark Oswald.
Right now, Mark Oswald is far more concerned with win lights than he is the times it takes to get them. But that was a 5:55.
Yeah, we're pretty happy with that. You know, the heat of the day, it's hard to run like that. That deal this morning, you know, was just an excellent run. Everything worked right. We're just happy to stay consistent, try to put the Thunderbird in the winner's circle.
That's got a little hotter, a little more humid. That doesn't hurt. Doesn't help, rather.
No, it doesn't. You know, we're happy with that. You know, we're keeping pace with Kenny and everybody like that, so things are looking good if we can keep things from falling off of it.
See you in a little while.
Thank you.
Okay, right now, Don Garlits is with John Force.
Well, that's kind of a heartbreaking way to go, but I think you made one heck of a run through that lane.
Yeah, she was slick, and Cole made a few changes up there, and it showed. We were happy that the performance come back, and the car came back and ran 60s again, and we were content with that.
You bet a 568 with a massive oil down that was speaks highly of your driving, John, and the NHRA's cleanup crew.
It was slick, and as far as, you know, we got down there. We're going on to win this race. You know, there was big money here, but we got it yesterday, and maybe Oswald, he's a heck of a competitor to that team, and maybe he'll get it today, and don't matter, my bank wouldn't have taken that much money anyway.
John Force, absolutely the best interview in all of motorsports. Back on the starting line, our next two competitors are backing up into their own tracks, trying to find the most traction available. Driving for Roland Leong is Johnny West out of Chandler, Arizona. Racing against him, a rookie in the sport of funny car racing, Eric Reed from Hacienda Heights, California. A tribute to Reed to make it to this second round of competition as he pulled off a big upset, defeating last year's runner-up Billy Meyer in the first round. But Reed has handling problems, and Johnny West goes on for the win. Reed losing control right off the starting line, backed out of the throttle, brought the car back into the center of the racetrack, and just coasted through. Our semifinal pair of funny cars finds Johnny West against Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein has the lane choice in that race. And in our other pair, Mike Dunn against Mark Oswald, with Oswald having the lane choice. This to the second round of the factory hot rods, the Pro Stock. Don Garland, what do you think of these race cars?
Well, I think they're just as sophisticated as anything Top Fuel has ever produced. In fact, in some instances, more so.
This race is an all-General Motors shootout with a Chevy Camaro against the Pontiac Firebird. In the near lane is Kenny Delco driving the Pontiac. Previously this season, he campaigned a Chevy Camaro. Racing an all-Chevrolet product is Darrell Alderman in the Camaro in the far lane. Alderman gets the advantage, a big hole shot in the far lane for Darrell Alderman. A close race, Alderman wins it, 7.59 seconds. His speed, 188 miles an hour. That victory came as a result of Alderman's driving skill. Don, that start is all important.
You bet it is, because if you start late, you start in the hole. You have to make up time. Hence, that's why they call them hole shots.
Alderman got that hole shot. He had the advantage off the starting line, even though Kenny Delco had a better elapsed time. As they approached the finish, Alderman by just a few feet, a 7.59 second elapsed time. Delco quicker at a 7:57, but he was late and lost.
One of the worst feelings in drag racing, you feel like you've let the whole team down.
I'm sure that's right, Don. You know, this graphically points out how important the driver is in this sport of championship drag racing. Joe Clark driving for Morgan & Clark in the far lane in a Chevy Camaro. In the near lane, number 2 in the world last season, WJ Warren Johnson at the wheel of the Oldsmobile Forenza. Joe Clark is another of those surprises that come along at the U.S. Nationals, making it here to the second round of the toughest field of pro stocks ever assembled. Clark in the far lane with a Camaro, and a red light start for Clark. He left the starting line too soon. That automatically disqualified him and gave the win at the starting line to Warren Johnson. He advances into the semifinals with a 7:56 elapsed time. His speed, 188 miles. Two drivers can't go to sleep because they've got a very important race ahead of them. Jerry Ackman, driving for Bill Orndorff from Ventura, California, has brought his Chevrolet Camaro to the starting line to race against one of the best Pontiacs in the business, that of Butch Leal from Blacklick, Ohio. Leal has already won 3 races thus far this season. Leal in the near lane, Eckman in the far lane, and a red light for Jerry Eckman. Don, we talked about how you feel after you're late. What do you feel like after you've left the red light?
It's a very depressed feeling because you don't want to be late and you don't want to be early. You just want total perfection.
Well, in pro stock racing, one man has come close to achieving total perfection. That is the driver of the Ford Thunderbird in the near lane, the world champion, Bob Glidden. A couple of days ago, Bob Glidden reached that point of perfection in a special race, the Mr. Gasket Pro Stock Challenge, when he raced the 2-time and defending challenge champ, Bruce Allen, in the Chevrolet. Glidden was in the far lane, Allen in the near lane. $25,000 was at stake in this single run. A good start for both drivers, but the horsepower of the Ford paid off at the finish line, and Bob Glidden took home, for the first time, the Mr. Gasket Pro Stock Challenge. Here in round number 2 of the U.S. Nationals competition, he is against Kenny Koretsky, and believe it or not, this is a former Bruce Allen race car, the Chevy Camaro, in the far lane. Glidden, the 7-time world champion, is going for an unprecedented 8th U.S. Nationals title. He has got a train link lead on Kenny Koretsky. And Bob Glidden advances into the semifinals with a 7.47 second elapsed time. His speed, 188 miles an hour. He will face Butch Leal in the Pontiac, but Glidden has the lane choice. The other pair finds the number 2 qualifier, Darrell Alderman, in the Camaro against Warren Johnson in his Oldsmobile. And Johnson, they both referred to, is a style of racing conducted all over the United States at drag strips everywhere, in which the competitor sets his own performance standard, and consistency is the name of the game. Consistency at this event is Bob Glidden. Here's Shirley Muldowney in the near lane. Joe Amato in the far lane. This is semifinals Top Fuel Eliminator. A great start. Joe Amato into the finals. His wife, Jerry, elated with the victory. This is the first time in his career that Joe Amato has made it to the finals of the U.S. Nationals. He did it with a 5.32 second elapsed time. He might beat this man, Darrell Gwynn. He has been in the finals for the last 2 years, but he lost both times to our commentator today, Don Garland. In this round, his competition is Dick LaHaye. His daughter, Kim, is the crew chief on this car. She is starting that 2,500 horsepower engine, preparing LaHaye to race against Gwynn. Don?
Well, I think that 5:32, that's going to be good. You know, the cars get tired toward the end of the day, and it's hot out here this afternoon, so that's a very respectable time. You could very well have lane choice.
Well, they both ran a 30 in the heat a little while ago, and it's starting to cool off a little bit, but Timmy, we burned a piston in the last run, so we had to do a little bit of adjustment on the fuel system, but they did a good job. And what did Shirley run?
Shirley ran 5:40.
5:40, yeah. I knew she was going to be right there, so we just trying to step it up a little bit. We're just trying to be consistent and get to the final here. This is the U.S. Nationals.
You bet. Good luck, Joe.
Don, the pressure of this race, the biggest and the best, obviously beginning to show on Joe Amato. Considerably more subdued than he was after his win in the previous round. LaHaye and Gwynn. And LaHaye advances to the finals to race Joe Amato. The LaHaye family overjoyed with the victory. His elapsed time, 5.33 seconds. His speed, 267 miles an hour. And that sets up a dream final. Joe Amato against Dick LaHaye, with Amato by 1/100th of a second having the choice of lane. We'll be right back. Nationals at Indianapolis Raceway Park. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans and 8-time U.S. Nationals Top Fuel champ Don Garland. We're set for the semifinals of Funny Car Eliminator. Johnny West, driving the car owned by Roland Leong, is taking on the big number 1, the man that is the world champion, Kenny Bernstein. Our finals are set in Top Fuel. One of the competitors, Dick LaHaye.
Dick LaHaye has made his first ever U.S. Nationals final round, preventing Darrell Gwynn from being in his third final of 5:33. You've lost lane choice.
Well, we run 33 over there. Joe likes that lane. He'll probably go over there. I'm tickled to death to be put back in the left lane, which we'll wait and see what he does.
You know, it's the U.S. Nationals when you see competition this keen. That was a horse race, and it's a pick 'em final, really.
Oh, it certainly is. It's just, we'll go up there and race and hope for the best.
See you there.
Thanks, Steve.
Dick LaHaye, as always, calm, cool, and collected. On the starting line, though, our two funny car semi-finalists lighting their mounts up for the charge down the racetrack. In the near lane, Kenny Bernstein. In the far lane, Johnny West. A good start. And Bernstein pulls ahead to move into the final. 5.54 seconds. His speed over 271 miles an hour. Let's go back and look again. Bernstein against West. Don, what did Johnny West do wrong?
Well, I don't think he did anything wrong. He made a perfect start. But there in the middle, you see it. There comes that Armstrong power, and he powers right by Johnny Tough. Fine, 271 miles an hour.
There's lots of pressure on these drivers, Don. You saw it a moment ago when you talked to Joe Amato. How does a driver cope with this pressure?
Well, each one's a little different. I know I used to cope with it. I'd always say to myself, well, Big, you know, you've won this Nationals before, so don't let it get to you. But for Amato and LaHaye, they're first-time finalists. I don't know how they're going to handle it.
Here's a man that's been in the finals before. In fact, he won it last year. Mike Dunn in the far lane. In the near lane, Mark Oswald. the finals for the second year in a row.
The pressure got to Oswald. He just stepped on it too hard right there at the start.
What a disappointment for the Candies and Hughes team. Mark Oswald, the picture of consistency throughout the entire weekend. But it is Mike Dunn's chance to become a repeat champion. He goes against Kenny Bernstein in the finals. Bernstein having the lane choice. Line, the final staging procedures underway in the semifinals of Pro Stock. Alderman in the far lane, Johnson in the near lane, and they're both just sitting there. Neither driver seems ready to stage at this moment. A bit of a psychological battle adding to the pressure on each of these drivers. Starter Buster Couch waving Darrell Alderman in, and it's a huge hole shot for Alderman. By nearly a tenth of a second, he is out in front of Warren Johnson, and it pays off for the win. Don, you got involved yourself in a staging battle like that a few years ago.
You bet. At the 1971 Nationals, it was a real battle. 3.5 minutes between myself and Steve Carbone, and I lost because of it.
How did that cause you to lose?
Well, my engine built too much heat in that long staging duel, and then it caused my power to come up, and I just struck the tires right where I sat. I should have staged. I had to race one otherwise.
So, Don, you wouldn't say that these staging battles are too smart?
No, they're not smart at all. Look what it did to Warren Johnson. He was a 10th late.
And Don, it looks like both these drivers, Butch Leal in the far lane and Bob Glidden in the near lane, are doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that Glidden, with the advantage that he's got, that he wouldn't go right up and stage.
And Glidden's car makes a move towards the center line. He doesn't touch it. He stays ahead of Leal and pulls back into the center of his lane. And Bob Glidden wins, advances to the finals. Had he crossed that center line, he would have been disqualified. So he had to stay away from the center line of the racetrack and also stay ahead of Butch Leal to be able to meet Darrell Alderman in the final, with Bob Glidden having the choice of lanes. Steve?
Well, Darrell Alderman is slowly but surely, I think, stealing Butch Leal's title as the king of the hole shot in this class. You ran 59 to his 53. You got the light.
Yeah, I just had the brakes, I guess, Steve.
What was going on up there? Nobody seemed to want to stage.
Well, you know, you go up and you decide to stage first or stage last, and I'm sure Warren decided to do the same thing.
So both guys wanting to stage last is what we're looking at.
Yes.
What breaks you?
I don't know.
Buster Couch, the starter?
Buster, yes. He can break you quick.
Okay, very good job. Beautiful driving.
Well, Wayne County prepared the car good. That's the main thing.
Well, it has been quick. Going into the final round, Darrell Alderman.
Steve, for the first time in his career, Darrell Alderman is in the finals. This time, as we watch our Pro Stock finalists get set for their last run of the day. In Kenny Bernstein's pit area, it looked like total confusion. Is it as disorganized as it appears?
Absolutely not. What you're looking at there is the ultimate in teamwork. Those guys are, everyone has got a specific job to do, and they are doing it.
The question remains now, can they complete their work in time to make the finals against Mike Dunn? The question here is, will there be another staging battle as there has been all day between our Pro Stock finalists? Bob Glidden in the near lane, Darrell Alderman in the far lane.
Well, you know, Dave, the reason you see so many of these staging battles in Pro Stock is because they must leave at such a high RPM. So the guy that stages first, his engine is at this high RPM longer, therefore wearing the clutch more, hurting the engine. So this Darrell needs to hurt Glidden as much as he can right now.
Glidden has got the advantage based on elapsed times, and it's a good start. Pulling ahead right at the finish line and winning his 8th U.S. Nationals title is Bob Glidden. Overjoyed, the family of Etta Glidden, Rusty and Billy, the two sons, they worked very hard on this race car. He ran 7.43 seconds at over 188 miles an hour.
And so even though Alderman lost the race, his starting line tactic worked because he did have a slight starting line advantage.
Don, that advantage only lasted for a few feet, though, as the superlative horsepower of the Ford Thunderbird of Bob Glidden began to make its mark. As they neared the finish line, he pulled ahead by a car length.
Well, Darrell Alderman gave it everything he had, but the Chevrolet was no match for this Thunderbird. Bob Glidden, that's 8 U.S. Nationals titles.
That's right, Steve. The Thunderbird was thundering today, for sure. I'll tell you. I know how I feel. Ed and the kids have got to feel great right now. Darrell did give us a good race until neck to neck till half track. damn, I'm telling you.
This was a little tougher race for you than it might have looked like from the grandstands.
Well, yes. The prior round, we had wheel hop really bad, got crossed up, nearly hit Butch. We had no idea what was going to happen. We kind of threw the dice. We told Darrell we were going to take the right lane, and then, well, we decided we'd take the left lane, so I guess the boys made the right decision again.
Terrific job. Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Bob, folks, the big red car is there. Don Garlits, after all the work that has gone on the race car, like on Kenny Bernstein's car, what's on your mind as a driver?
Oh, man, you can imagine what's on Kenny's mind right now. He's wondering if every one of those crew members did, in fact, do his job correctly. Is every hose fastened tightly? Is that thing going to blow up at half track? And then on top of that, he's got to drive perfect.
Dale Armstrong, the crew chief, on Kenny Bernstein's car. Bernstein is facing the defending champ, Mike Dunn. A great start for Bernstein. Mike Dunn shuts it off as the tires begin to lose traction, and Kenny Bernstein has won the U.S. Nationals. His elapsed time, 5.53 seconds at 269 miles an hour. As you can see, Mike Dunn lost traction, and that cost him the race.
A classic case of just trying too hard, Dave.
Mike Dunn losing to Kenny Bernstein, the crew absolutely elated. Steve?
There's not another crew in drag racing that could have put this man on the starting line with the troubles between rounds. Can you believe you're even here?
No, it's hard. And you said it. The crew, Dale Armstrong, Mike Wood, Jim Mayle, Charlie Nielsen, and Darrell Gwynn's crew, and all our friends.
Tom McEwen was in there.
Goose, the Coors Goose come in there and helped everybody. We couldn't do it without them, I tell you. And Budweiser, Quaker State, and Buick.
And a 553. I mean, they just came right back with a bare short block motor.
Well, they did. Dale does it that way. That's the way he has them prepared because he changes the combination so much. But you never worry if you don't run out of time. But they put on the kangaroo shoes and ran hard on that one, Steve.
Indeed. Kenny Bernstein, U.S. Nationals champion again.
It's great. It's a great one, I tell you. There's nothing better than the U.S. Nationals. Nothing.
That says it all.
Steve, it says, is evidence in our Top Fuel final. There is nothing better today than the race coming up between Dick LaHaye and Joe Amato. To the winner go the spoils. $50,000 at stake in this single run for the Top Fuel Championship. Neither driver has tasted victory before on this quarter mile, and Steve asked them about it.
What would it mean to Joe Amato to win his first ever U.S. Nationals in Top Fuel?
Well, Steve, to win the Nationals, the big one of all time, and hopefully set the speed record and back it up in the final, that'll be a storybook ending and a dream come true. I don't know if I could take it.
It's probably the most important race of my whole career. This is the grandfather of all drag racing, and it's the biggest drag race of the year. And to win this would just be astounding. I mean, I would probably be lost for words, to be truthful with you, and we'll have to wait and see what happens at the other end.
Joe Amato has run 282 miles an hour, but to set that as the official record, he must run within 1% of it before this event is over. He has this race yet to go. Let's go to Steve.
For the past 3 years, it's been this man, Don Garlits, whom I've interviewed as the winner of Top Fuel. Big Daddy, who do you think we'll interview this time?
Well, I kind of think you're going to interview Joe Amato. LaHaye is pretty cagey, but he ran 100th slower than Joe did. And I think that Joe will step his car up just a little bit. I'm a little afraid that Dick is going to smoke the tires trying to make a better, quicker ET.
LaHaye in the near lane, Amato in the far lane. It is all up to the drivers at this point. We have talked about the pressure all day long. You've heard Don Garlits refer to it. We saw Mike Dunn succumb to it. It has got to be on the minds of both Joe Amato and Dick LaHaye. A fabulous start. In by inches, Joe Amato wins the race, and he did it on a hole shot off the starting line.
There it is, Dave. You're going to see what won this race. The start, the reaction time, it was Joe Amato all the way.
Don, in fact, it was Dick LaHaye with a quicker elapsed time, 5.25 seconds, but Joe Amato, with his hole shot, won it with a 5.26.
Tim told me it was going to be real tight, he said, but you're going to have to weld them to the tree. You know, we've been driving real good all day, and I've been just concentrating a real lot on the tree. And I've been getting real good lights, and, I've gotten my eyes picked out the last race, so I came here with the idea that I know I was going to have to do real good. And thank God they gave me enough power to do it.
You know, nothing I could tell you would spoil this moment, but you missed the record by 1/10 of a mile an hour.
Oh, my God, Steve. I wish we polished the car before. 1/10. Well, that's okay. We'll get it at the Motorplex. I'm not, wanted to win the Nationals. We wanted to get the points lead. We wanted to do good for our sponsors, TRW, Mr. Gasket, Hearst. There's a lot of people here. The U.S. Nationals, the wintertime, everybody remembers who won the U.S. Nationals.
That's right.
The World Championship, this helps us on the points, too. So, Tim Richards and my wife and the crew, they did an outstanding job.
No one who saw it will ever forget 282 miles an hour. Thank you for that.
And we'll be back with the 282. Man, we didn't back the record up, but it'll happen before the year's out.
Joe Amato, what a happy man.
Your U.S. Nationals champion, Joe Amato. Dick LaHaye over to offer congratulations. Don